So in class, we talked about subtracting integers, and what we said was we could rewrite any subtraction problem into an addition problem. So I wanted to go over that here in this video to make clear exactly what we did in class, and to give some of those individuals who maybe didn't understand it the first time, maybe this video might help you understand it. Or for those maybe who are absent and are struggling to catch up here for whatever reason, wanted to cover it again because it's such an important topic and it's really not a complicated topic. So there's two cases though with subtracting integers. You could subtract a positive integer or you could subtract a negative integer. And with subtracting a positive integer, what that would look like would, for example, be 4 minus 3, or we could have a negative 4 minus 3, right? And so looking at these problems, 4 minus 3, I'm doing minus 3. 3 is positive in this case, right? So writing it 3 or plus 3, that's the same as positive 3. We usually don't write the plus 3 there. We just leave it as just 3. Right, so here 4 minus 3, we're subtracting a positive. And it turns out that subtracting a positive is the same, so if you have 4 minus 3, that's the same as doing 4 plus the negative of that number. So minus 3 would be the same as plus negative 3. In this case, same thing, negative 4 plus negative 3. Okay, and the reason behind this, let's just think about this for a minute. If you have a number line, here's 0, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to do 4 minus 3, remember in elementary school, what did we do when we had 4 minus 3 on the number line? We would go 3 units back left, right? And remember from last time, what did we say when we were adding a negative integer? We said we were going to go in the negative direction, right? So it'd be the same thing, right? We would start at 4 and we would go 3 in the negative direction and we would end up at 1 and that would be our answer. So for both of these, really we're doing the same thing and we get to the same answer and they have to be identical. 4 minus 3 is the same as 4 plus negative 3. This case is the same. Only thing that's different is where we start, the number that we start at, right? So I can, let me go ahead and erase some stuff because it's getting too crowded here on my whiteboard. So with this bottom one, same idea, only difference is where I start. So here I started at 4, which is fine. We could also start at negative 4. And then we're subtracting, so we go in the negative direction. 3 units. And that's the same as adding negative 3, because when we add an integer, we go in the negative direction, right? So minus 3 is the same as plus negative 3. Minus 3 plus negative 3, those are the same. Okay. So what about when you subtract a negative? Subtracting a negative would look like this: 4 minus negative 3. Or you could also see it as 4 minus parentheses negative 3. Negative 4 minus negative 3. Those would all be the same case. Those would be the case when you're subtracting a negative, right? I have minus, which is subtraction, this negative 3. Minus negative 3 here. Minus negative 3, right? So I'm subtracting a negative here. So that's this case. What does this case look like? Well, it turns out, and if you have two minuses next to each other like that, that's just going to be a plus. Two negatives next to each other like that, that's just plus. Pretty easy rule. Pretty helpful too, because we don't have to get scared or worried about these two minuses there. All that is is 4 plus 3. And in the last numerical expression here, it would be negative 4 plus 3. And we could look at why that is. Right, so I could draw a number line here, and I could go to positive 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the positive side, this is the negative side, here's 4. And I could look at this number sentence and say, okay, well, I'm subtracting something, right? Typically, when I subtract, I go in the negative direction, right? I go in the left direction. But here, I'm subtracting a negative 3, okay? And when I subtract a positive 3, I go in the negative direction, like we discussed just now. But when you subtract a negative 3, positive 3 and negative 3 are opposites. They are the opposite of each other, so they must, you must do the opposite thing, right? What's the opposite of going left? The opposite of going left is going right. So in this case, we go ahead and erase this arrow. We're not going to go left, we're going to go right. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 in the right direction, and we end up at 7. But that's the same as doing 4 plus 3, right? 4 plus 3 is 7. We go in the right direction when we do addition. Right? So these two really are identical. When you see two negatives next to each other like that, it's just plus. So let's see, you could see this a couple different ways. If you see parentheses around the numbers, around the individual numbers, don't get scared of that. That's the same thing. So that's the same as 4 minus 4 minus negative 3, which is the same as 4 plus 3. You could see the parentheses around just the negative 3, and again, that doesn't really, the parentheses there, they don't really have a function, or they don't really do anything. They don't really serve a purpose. So that's the same thing. Okay, or you could see maybe the first number is negative, and you have parentheses around the first number. Okay, again, the parentheses they're not really doing anything. They don't have a purpose or a function, so it's really the same. Or you could have parentheses around both numbers. The parentheses are isolating the numbers, but they don't really have a real function. They don't really do anything. That's the same as negative 4 minus a negative 3, and then that's the same as negative 4 plus 3. I think that's covered all the cases. You could have, I think one more case would be if you had 4 minus a negative 3. That would also be 4 minus a negative 3, and then that would be the same as 4 plus 3, right? There's just some ways that you could see it written. Okay, they all mean the same thing, so don't get too scared of that, of any parentheses that are included. And that's about it for subtracting integers. With subtracting integers, really it's not that scary of a thing. Ultimately, we can rewrite any subtraction problem as an addition problem, and we can just focus on addition at that point. Get really good with addition, and then, you know, we're soaring high. We are successful in math. Hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, you can email me. Feel free to come into class and ask questions as well.